10 years ago, I sat at our kitchen table, acceptance letter in hand, watching my dreams crumble as my parents explained why my sister deserved my college fund more than I did. "Olivia," my mother said, not quite meeting my eyes, "Amanda needs this opportunity. You know how she struggles. Stanford is her chance to finally shine." I looked down at my own acceptance letter from MIT. Full academic scholarship. Almost full. I only needed $12,000 per year to cover the remaining costs. The college fund my grandparents had set up for me held over $200,000. More than enough. "But this is my college fund," I said quietly. "Grandma and Grandpa set it up for me when I was born." My father cleared his throat uncomfortably. "They set up funds for both of you. But Amanda's, well, she needed some extra tutoring over the years. Private schools. Special programs." What he meant was that they'd drained Amanda's fund years ago, spending it on expensive schools that promised to help her keep up with her peers, on tutors who struggled to maintain her C average, on educational consultants, who suggested she just wasn't trying hard enough. "I only need $48,000 total," I pleaded. "That's less than a quarter of what's in my fund. You can give Amanda the rest." "Don't be selfish, Olivia," my mother snapped. "Stanford is Amanda's dream school. She needs the full tuition covered. You've always been the smart one. You'll figure something out." The smart one. That's what they always called me. Smart Olivia who never needed expensive tutors. Clever Olivia who got straight A's without trying. Reliable Olivia who could handle things on her own. Amanda burst into the kitchen then, her face glowing. "Mom, the new Stanford sweater you ordered just arrived. Isn't it perfect?" She twirled around in the crimson sweatshirt, already wearing it despite the warm spring weather. My parents beamed at her, their precious younger daughter who needed every advantage they could give her. "It looks wonderful, honey," Mom cooed. "Very collegiate." I stood up slowly, gathering my MIT acceptance letter and the scholarship paperwork. "I'll figure something out," I said, more to myself than to them. I always do. That night I called my grandmother. She died 2 years ago, but her sister, my great-aunt Eleanor, answered the phone at their old number. I explained the situation through tears. "Those fools," Aunt Eleanor's voice crackled with anger. "That fund was in trust for you. They weren't supposed to be able to touch it." "Dad's a lawyer," I reminded her. "He found a way." There was a long pause, then Aunt Eleanor said something that would change my life. "Come see me tomorrow. Your grandmother left something else for you. Something your parents don't know about." The next day, I took the bus to Aunt Eleanor's sprawling Victorian house in the historic district. She was waiting on the porch, a heavy envelope in her hands. "Your grandmother knew something like this might happen," she said without preamble. "She saw how they favored Amanda, how they threw money at her problems instead of dealing with them." Inside the envelope was a letter from my grandmother and a key to a safety deposit box. The letter was short but clear. She'd set up a separate account for me, one my parents couldn't access. It wasn't enough for full tuition, but combined with my scholarship, "It's $20,000, Aunt Eleanor said. "Enough to get you started. The rest is up to you." I hugged her, crying again, but for a different reason. "Thank you. But why didn't Grandma tell me about this before she died?" "Because she wanted you to fight for your acceptance on your own merits, not because you knew there was a safety net." Aunt Eleanor smiled sadly. "She believed in you, Olivia. She knew you were meant for more than being your sister's support system." I did go to MIT that fall. Between my scholarship, Grandma's secret fund, and 3 part-time jobs, I made it work. My parents barely noticed my struggle, too busy supporting Amanda through her Stanford adventure. Amanda lasted 2 semesters at Stanford before dropping out. "The academic pressure was too much," my mother explained to relatives. "She's taking time to find herself." Finding herself apparently meant moving back home, taking occasional community college classes, and spending her days working on her lifestyle blog, while my parents continued to support her. Meanwhile, I threw myself into my studies. MIT wasn't just challenging, it was transformative. I discovered my passion for educational psychology and cognitive development. My professors became mentors, opening doors I never knew existed. During my junior year, I started working in the admissions office as part of my work-study program. Something clicked. I saw how the whole system worked, how decisions were made, how opportunities were distributed, how potential was evaluated. By the time I graduated summa cum laude, I had a clear path forward. My thesis on reforming college admissions processes caught the attention of several major universities. I accepted a position in the admissions department of Riverside University while pursuing my master's degree. Riverside wasn't as prestigious as Stanford, but it was respected, a solid private university known for its innovative programs and commitment to academic excellence. I rose quickly through the ranks, earning my doctorate while implementing new admissions protocols that gained national attention. At 32, I became the youngest dean of admissions in Riverside's history. My parents were vaguely aware of my administrative job at some college, but they were too preoccupied with Amanda's latest ventures to pay attention to the details. Then last week, a familiar name appeared in my inbox: Amanda Sullivan. My sister had finally decided to return to college, and she'd set her sights on Riverside's prestigious business school. Her application was interesting. A 2.3 GPA from her Stanford semester, scattered community college credits with mostly C's, and an admission essay about how her lifestyle blog, current followers, 1,247, proved she had entrepreneurial spirit. But it was her appeal letter that really caught my attention. After being rejected in the first round of admissions, she'd submitted an emotional plea for reconsideration. A plea that now sat on my desk waiting for the dean's final decision. I picked up the letter, my finger tracing over her familiar handwriting. Dear Admissions Committee, I know my academic record isn't perfect, but I believe I deserve a chance to prove myself. My parents have always supported my dreams, sacrificing everything to give me opportunities. I set the letter down, memories flooding back. The kitchen table. The Stanford sweater. My MIT acceptance letter. The years of struggle while she lived comfortably on my college fund. My assistant poked her head in. Dr. Sullivan? The admissions committee is waiting for your decision on the appeals. I looked at Amanda's file again. 10 years ago, my parents had decided her future was worth more than mine. Now, in a twist of fate they couldn't have imagined, I held her future in my hands. Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes, I said, reaching for my pen. I've made my decision. The admissions committee sat around the polished conference table, files spread out before them. They were good people, dedicated educators who believed in giving students genuine opportunities. But they also understood standards had to mean something. Dr. Sullivan, Professor Martinez began, we've reviewed Ms. Sullivan's appeal carefully. While we appreciate her enthusiasm, her academic record is concerning. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. None of them knew Amanda was my sister. I'd built my career on integrity and objectivity. No one could say I'd ever let personal feelings influence admissions decisions. Her appeal letter mentions family support and sacrifice. Dr. Chen added, a note of skepticism in her voice. But I see no evidence of actual academic improvement over the past decade. Let's review the facts, I said, opening Amanda's file. 1 semester at Stanford dropout. Scattered community college credits over 10 years, mostly C's. A lifestyle blog with minimal following. No significant work experience. The committee members nodded in agreement. However, I continued, she does have one unique qualification we should consider. They looked at me curiously. I pulled out another document, my own college admission records from 10 years ago. This candidate's family once demonstrated their commitment to education by redirecting another student's college fund to support her Stanford attempt. Professor Martinez frowned. I don't understand. How is that relevant? Because I was that other student, I said quietly. Amanda Sullivan is my sister. The room fell silent. Dr. Chen's eyes widened in recognition. She'd been my dissertation advisor and knew parts of my story. 10 years ago, my parents took my college fund, money my grandparents had set aside specifically for me, and gave it to Amanda for Stanford. Money she burned through in 1 semester before dropping out. I laid out the rest of the documentation. My MIT acceptance, the scholarship that covered most but not all costs, the bank statements showing my multiple jobs while maintaining a 4.0 GPA. I worked as a teaching assistant, library monitor, and weekend tutor, I continued. I ate ramen noodles and shared a tiny apartment with 3 roommates. Meanwhile, Amanda lived in a luxury dorm at Stanford, spent weekends shopping, and never had to worry about how to pay for books or meals. Dr. Sullivan, Professor Martinez said carefully, are you suggesting we should reject her appeal because of personal history? No, I replied firmly. I'm suggesting we hold her to the same standards we hold every other applicant. The same standards I was held to. I opened another file, this one containing results from our standard admissions assessment tests, which Amanda had taken as part of her application. Look at her cognitive assessment scores, I pointed out. They're actually above average. Amanda isn't incapable of college-level work. She's simply never been required to try. Dr. Chen studied the scores. These are surprisingly good, considering her academic record. Exactly, I said. My sister isn't failing because she can't succeed. She's failing because our parents' constant support taught her she didn't have to. I pulled out one final document, my proposed response to Amanda's appeal. I suggest we offer her conditional admission, I said, watching their surprised expressions. Not to the business school but to our general studies program. She'll need to maintain a 3.0 GPA for 2 semesters before she can transfer to her preferred major. No special accommodations, no exceptions for missed deadlines, and she'll need to pass the same prerequisites as every other student. And if she fails to meet these conditions? Professor Martinez asked. Then she fails, I said simply. Like any other student would. The committee reviewed my proposal, adding a few minor conditions but ultimately approving it unanimously. As they filed out, Dr. Chen lingered behind. That couldn't have been easy, she said softly. Actually it was, I replied. For the first time in Amanda's life, someone is offering her a real opportunity instead of an empty advantage. The next day I called my parents. It was time they knew. Olivia, my mother answered cheerfully. We were just talking about you. Amanda applied to some university for business school. She's very excited. Riverside University, I interrupted. Where I'm the dean of admissions. Silence. What? She finally managed. I've been dean of admissions at Riverside for the past 2 years, Mom. I'm the one who's been reviewing Amanda's application. I heard her call for my father, the phone rustling as they presumably huddled together to hear. Amanda's initial application was rejected, I continued calmly. Her appeal landed on my desk last week. As dean, I have final say over all appeals. Olivia, my father's lawyer voice took over, surely you understand this is a conflict of interest. You should recuse yourself. I disclosed my relationship to the admissions committee. I cut in. Everything was handled properly and ethically. Unlike, say, taking money from a trust fund specifically designated for one child's education and giving it to another. More silence. We've reached a decision on her appeal, I said. She's being offered conditional admission to our general studies program. Not business school. She'll need to earn that opportunity through actual academic achievement. But, my mother started. The offer letter explains everything. If Amanda is serious about her education, this is her chance to prove it. If not, she'll fail, just like she did at Stanford. The difference is this time she'll fail or succeed on her own merits, not because someone cleared her path for her. You're punishing her, my father accused. Because of what we did with your college fund. No, Dad. I'm giving her what you never did. The chance to actually earn something. To discover what she's capable of when people expect more from her than just showing up. I could hear them arguing in the background, probably trying to figure out how to manipulate the situation. But this time they had no leverage. One more thing, I added. Amanda's tuition won't be eligible for any special payment plans or deadline extensions. Given your history of financial support for her education, I'm sure that won't be a problem. I ended the call and sat back in my office chair looking out over the campus. Students hurried between classes, carrying backpacks and laptops, each one working toward their own dreams. Later that afternoon I received a text from Amanda. Just got the acceptance letter. Conditional admission? General studies? This isn't what I applied for. I replied with a simple message. It's what you earned. The question is, what will you do with it? 3 days later, Amanda appeared in my office. She looked different, less polished, more real somehow. Why didn't you tell me? She asked. All these years you've been building this career and I never knew. Would it have mattered? I asked. When was the last time anyone in our family asked about my life? She had the grace to look ashamed. I found my old Stanford sweater yesterday, she said quietly. I remembered how excited I was to wear it. How sure I was that everything would just work out. Because it always did. And now I'm terrified, she admitted. These conditions in the acceptance letter, they're serious, aren't they? No extensions, no exceptions, no safety net. I nodded. Just like real life. She was quiet for a moment, fidgeting with her phone. Probably a habit from years of documenting everything for her blog. Mom and Dad are furious, she said finally. They think you're being vindictive. Are you asking if they're right? No, she surprised me by saying. I'm realizing they might be wrong. About a lot of things. I studied my sister, seeing perhaps for the first time the person she could have been if our parents hadn't worked so hard to protect her from consequences. The General Studies program starts in 3 weeks, I said. Your first class is at 8 a.m. Professor Chen doesn't allow late arrivals. Amanda stood up, squaring her shoulders. I'll be there at 7:45. As she reached the door, she turned back. That college fund, the one they took from you. I never knew. I'm sorry. I know, I said softly. Now prove you mean it. Amanda did show up at 7:45 for her first class. And her second. And every class after that. It wasn't easy. She struggled with deadlines, complained about the workload, and had to learn study skills most students mastered in high school. But she did learn. Her first paper came back with a C+ in actual tears. Her second earned a B-. By midterms, she had a solid B average and dark circles under her eyes from late-night study sessions. My parents still aren't speaking to me. They tried to argue that I'd abused my position, but their lawyer quietly advised them that everything had been handled ethically and professionally. Last week I found a note slipped under my office door. Inside was a worn Stanford sweater and a short message in Amanda's handwriting. I finally understand what real support looks like. Thank you for giving me what they never did. The chance to earn my own success. I hung the sweater in my office closet, next to my MIT diploma and the last photo taken of me with my grandmother. 3 reminders that sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about giving someone the opportunity to prove who they really are. Amanda's midterm grades just posted. She earned her first A. She didn't post about it on her blog or call our parents to celebrate. Instead, she signed up for tutoring sessions to help other students who were struggling. Sometimes the hardest lessons teach us who we really are. And sometimes the person teaching those lessons is the one who had to learn them first, one part-time job and ramen dinner at a time.